members in that state. You know, I lost both my brothers. One of them made the news, and luckily no pictures did. But you know, it's not a nice thing for the world to see. I know they're big celebrities, and I don't think it's a nice thing to share those pictures. So don't blame them for doing what they did to block it. I don't blame them at all.
Al, when it comes to causes of death, are you able to see the causes of death for the people coming into the crematorium?
When you would put the paperwork on the system, yes, you would read the cause of death. Yes, always.
And do you think, you know, when we've read that these two people died in the house a week apart, I mean, have you ever come across anything like that before? Is that extremely rare?
I've cremated husband and wives who've died within a few days apart, usually old age or heart attack. So they call it broken heart. That's happened a few times. Yeah, I've dealt with it. Yeah, nothing like this. Nothing like what's happened to them too.
So when you hear these stories of people dying of a broken heart, that is an actual fact verified by you in the crematorium business.
Well, I've witnessed it a few times. Yes, it's usually very, very elderly people. Husband goes, wife goes. You know, within days. Very sad. You know, and they, from what I remember, it's a few years ago, it would be old age or something like that. Would be on the forms. Yeah.
Imagine if you've been with someone for such a very long time, your will to continue going without the other person.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. And you'd see, you'd do a funeral of an elderly woman, and you see the husband in the funeral, and 2 weeks later you're cremating him. That happened a lot. That happens so much. Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, you know, they're seeing that Gene died a week later. Let me just read some more of this and get your reaction. So he died a week or so later, likely from heart disease, but it showed evidence of advanced Alzheimer's. Julia Peters, a representative of Hackman and Betsy's estate, asked a court to keep records related to the investigation sealed to protect the privacy of their family. She cited protections under the US Constitution's 14th Amendment, emphasized the potentially shocking nature of any photos and videos from the investigation. Peter said that Hackman and Betsy lived an exemplary private life for over 30 years and did not showcase their lifestyle. These images may already be blocked from the public, as New Mexico open records law prevents dissemination of sensitive images. According to Amanda Lavin, legal director of the nonprofit New Mexico Foundation for Open Government, that includes images of dead people. New Mexico's Inspection of Public Records Act may also allow the couple's estate to prevent the release of certain medical details. Despite that, Lavin told AP that most of the records of death investigation, as well as autopsy report, are considering public records in the state, so the state may not be able to block the release of every detail. I do think it does infringe on transparency if the court were to prohibit release of all the investigation records, including the autopsies. The whole idea of those records being available is to ensure accountability in the way those investigations are done. She also said there may be a public health concern for the release of the information, since Betsy reportedly died of the deadly but rare hantavirus. And then it goes on to the story about the will. I'll get to that in a minute. So I know when I was reading early reports of this, they were talking about the partial mummification of both of the corpses. Now, what does that mean? I imagine you're familiar with that, and you've perhaps seen what that looks like.
They've been dead a few days, maybe a week or so. From where I remember my coroner days, picking up deceased people, sudden deaths, and people found dead. if they've been dead 3 or 4 days or more, they kind of go like a really pale color. They kind of trying to think. It's almost like a coating of dust, but it's not dust over them. If you know what I mean. Their skin is really pale. Like you think there's dust on them, but it isn't. It's just the color of the skin. So I imagine they've been dead for quite a few days from what I've seen in my old job. Yeah, it's a sight to when you see it, you're like, wow, it brings home how valuable life is,
Absolutely.
Mm,
And when you're cremating people, Al,
mm.
is it just a case of a coffin comes through and you put it in and you don't actually get to see the contents? Or do you sometimes get to see the contents?
No, so the coffee comes into the committal room. You check all the paperwork, have the cremator ready. Coffin goes into the cremator. Then you use as a spy hole. You have to visually observe the cremation, make sure it's all going through the right process. So after about 10 minutes, the combustion of the coffin breaks open. You look through the spy hole. You can, in my experience, you would see the top of the head. You see the hair singeing, the skin bubbling, and whatnot. And then, yeah, not a pretty sight. And then, sort of hour into the cremation, you check again, or 40 minutes into the cremation, you bizarrely see the limbs sticking in the air and things like that, and bodily fluids squirting out. And then at the end of the cremation, all you should see, no visible flame, just a layer of broken bones in the hearth. And then when there's no visible flame, flicker of flame, cremation's finished. Stop the cremator, open the door, and rake out the remains. That's what
When you
happened.
say bodily fluids squirting out, what do you mean by that?
Well, you get it in the first 40 minutes of the cremation. I think the worst I've seen is like the color was weird, sort of greeny color. And it was just like a fountain coming out of the torso or somewhere like that. That was bizarre. Yeah, what a sight! And then you go home with them thoughts, and then go to sleep, and then you can't sleep because that's what you see in your dreams. Well, that's what I did. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
If you think what Al just said is fascinating, get ready for 2 hours of Al's crematorium stories coming in a podcast in about a month or so, and it's caused a lot of questions to start coming in for you here, Al, including do they take the handles off the coffin?
That is number one question I've always been asked. Actually, the handles are plastic. So there you go. They melt.
They melt, so they're
They
just gone in this. How hot is it in there?
So when you charging a coffin means pushing a coffin into the cremator is about 800 degrees, but it can actually go up to about 11. I've had a cremator go up to nearly 1200, and it shouldn't do that. That's too hot. But they go up to about 980, somewhere around there, and a cremation lasts about 90 minutes. If it's a large body, it could last 30 minutes more than that, because you have to use a lot of air, not just flame. You use loads of air. Is the best way to describe it. Is like trying to get your barbecue lit, and you're blowing on the fire to get the coals hot. So you put air on them. Yeah, that's what happens.
Oh.
Mm.
Right. Next question: do the bones get grinded for ashes?
Yes. When you finish the cremation, you do see the outline of the skeleton. You see large pieces of the bones. Sometimes you normally would always get the top of the skull with the eye sockets. You'll see the arms and legs, fingers and things like that. rake it out into the cooling chamber. Once it's cool for an hour, put it into a cremulator, which crushes the bones to dust. And then you put it into an urn.
And you said that, you know, all of the bodies come in coffins, and with the exception of the babies, are they not in coffins?
They are in coffins. You get wooden coffins, cardboard coffins, and wicker coffins for everybody. Babies come in coffins, little tiny coffins, and then you put that coffin in a tray, in a stainless steel tray, which is called the baby tray. It's a very tough thing to deal with, especially when you know the family or something. You know, that makes it worse. But yeah, that's how they come in.
Oh my God.
I remember cremating a poor chap. He took his life. He went into the sea, and they found him maybe 3 months later. But he didn't have his head. It was just his torso, basically, and maybe one leg or something like that, if I remember right. I think I had about 8 urns of ash out of him because the inside of him was full of sand. So when the cremation was finished, the hearth, it was like melted glass, basically. It ruined the hearth. We had to replace the hearth after it. But I got to think about it. It's either 7 or 8 urns of ash out of him because of the sand. Yeah, that was bizarre.
Oh my God.
Hmm.
Grief.
We couldn't cremulate him. We couldn't put his remains through the cremulator because of all the sand that was in him. That turned to basically molten glass, really. That's what it seemed like.
I think what we're going to have to do, Al, is after we premiere your 2-hour crematorium story podcast, perhaps bring you on live afterwards to answer questions. So many questions are coming in. People are fascinated by this. It's a glimpse into a world where we don't know anything about. And we've interviewed a lot of people, but this is something else.
It is, isn't it? I did it for 9 years. Yeah.
Put a 1 in the chat, viewers, if you would like to see Al come back and do a Q&A live after the podcast I did with him premieres. Put a 2 in the chat if this is all too much for you and you would rather Al bogged off. I'm sure it's going to be all 1s. Anyway, Gillian wants to know, have you ever got a call out to an undetermined cause of death?
So I didn't do many coroner's jobs, but the one that sticks in my mind was a Christmas Eve a few years ago. And the scenes of crimes were there, taking photographs, this, that, and the other, in their white suits, you know, those like boiler suits. We weren't allowed in till they did all their photographs. Very, very unusual death. The poor chap was naked on his sofa. He'd been dead for days. Apparently, family checked on him the day before, and he was supposedly okay and all that. But that was bizarre. That one was, yeah.
Looks like it's nearly all 1s. Asking you to come back and do a live Q&A. Al's channel is going underground in Lost Mines and Tunnels.
There it is.
And the link for his channel. Oh yeah, Lost Mines. I'll put. Let me just get your channel link in the live chat. All Al's links are in the description box. But I'm going to put his channel link in the live chat as well. I'm going to try and get through some more of your questions. Andrew is saying, why are coffins used in cremation? It seems like such a waste.
So I've had that millions of times. But they never say it when they put it in the ground. Seems like such a waste. So it's part of the process, isn't it? Having a coffin. There is we did it twice. They come in a reusable coffin. I've only ever done it twice. So the body's wrapped in a shroud, and it comes in a reusable coffin, which is press-studded together. So do the funeral and all that. It looks like a coffin until you look up at it close up, and you can tell it's not. When it comes into the committal room, you undo all the coffin, and there's the body in a shroud. And underneath the shroud is a long plank, so the body can't collapse when you're pushing it into the cremator. But I get that. I used to get that question a lot. What a waste! But nobody says it when they go in the ground. It's the same for it when it goes in the ground.
We'll go to a more light-hearted question just to reprieve us for a few moments. What is Al Cat's name?
Behind me is Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Nana wants to know, do you see a difference in the cremation process with people who've been embalmed to those who haven't?
That's a good question. So with the bodily fluids, I've never asked the embalmers this. I used to see this weird, funny coloured stuff squirting out sometimes. And those bodies had been embalmed. Is it the stuff they use? I don't know. So possibly, yeah, there is a difference, I would say, yes, due to the weird fluid squirting out.
How do you cope with the smell? Have you come across some strange smells in your career?
Oh, loads. Picking up the deceased with the coroner, that's really bad. That's really bad. Had a leaking coffin once from the hearse all the way through the service to the committal room into the cremator. That was unreal. That smell was.
What did the leakage look like?
Black. Black fluid drip. And when it was stood on the trolley in the funeral service under the window, it was constantly dripping in this one spot. So I had to get the carpet cleaning machine out to clean it. But when I took it out the back, unreal. And a leaking cremator. Had one of them, a few times actually, where the ash pan is. Sometimes the seal would fail, and then you get the smoke blowing back. That smell stays with you for years. To this day, if I smell a certain smell, it reminds me of it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Laura wants to know, would Al like to be cremated?
Yes. Yeah. Direct cremation for me. No funeral. Take me to the crematorium, cremate me, and then scatter me ashes in the sea, probably.
People are asking me if I'm okay listening to you. Andrea, I've been with Al all day today. I've had hours and hours of this. Way more graphic than what we're discussing right now. And that podcast will be coming in approximately a month. Black stuff leaking from the corpse. Black stuff. Why is it? Is that because of the amount of time between the death and the cremation that the fluids inside the body have turned black?
From memory, the funeral was delayed due to family something or other, and the person had been deceased for a very long time, over a month actually. And that's what happened. The coffin probably wasn't sealed properly. So when they seal a coffin, when they make a coffin, they seal it with plastic liner. Then they put the fancy material above, but they staple gun it in. So I imagine a staple gun has punctured the plastic, hence the leakage. You get a lot of bad smells, not just leakage, but sometimes when you open the back of the hearse to retrieve the coffin, the waft gets you really bad. Like, oof. And you're surrounded by family members crying their eyes out, and you're going, it's not great. It's not great, no.
So Gillian wants to know, are you saying then that death has a certain smell?
Yes, it does. Yes, 100%. 100%, yeah. Wow. If you smell like a dead animal, I've smelled dead sheep and stuff, like a dead badger on the side of the road. That has nothing on it. 100 times worse.
So everything that's alive has a different death smell. Is that what you're saying?
I think with humans, it's your stomach content in it that makes it worse.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen signs of life once inside?
When I first started cremating, I looked into the cremator because you have to observe the process. I seen an arm in the air, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But it's the heat that causes that. But first thought was, did I put them in alive? You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
And you've sent me a load of videos of orbs, lights, and bizarre things running around the room caught on CCTV at the crematorium that people didn't believe you had happened.
Yeah, well, two or three of us witnessed it, and we told it, bizarre, completely bizarre. Yeah.
So we're going to be showing those videos in the podcast. And
On night vision, so I was working late at night. So on night vision, you see the dust particles floating around, stuff like that. But then out the blue, super bright white light just shoots from the ceiling direction, bounces off the floor. There ain't no bug. I don't believe in all the spooks and stuff, but there ain't no bug. I don't know. Watch the podcast.
what do you do with any metal parts people have, like when they've had new hips, etc.?
So after the cremation, you rake the remains to the cooling chamber. After an hour, you drop them to a stainless steel urn, take them to cremulator, put them in the cremulator, put these titanium balls in there to crush the bones. Then you get a giant magnet and stick that in there, picks out all the screws from the coffin, and then you pull out the limbs. And all the metals go to recycling. They go abroad somewhere, so like Sweden or something like that, or Norway. And all the money raised from that goes to a local charity, which is pretty cool.
That's good.
Yeah, that's
Laura wants to know, do the corpses speak out or wail? Do they make noises?
good. No. I picked up somebody once, and then you heard like a funny noise, but it's the gas has been released. Yeah, a bit spooky, but yeah.
Looney wants to know, is the smell of death like acid or ammonia? How would you describe it?
It's hard to describe. It's an awful smell. It's an absolutely awful smell. It's the worst smell I've ever smelt in my life. Like feces or anything like that. That has nothing on par with it. It's really hard to describe. It's a very awful smell.
So my friend who's on the channel recently, are you a believer in necromancy? And I'm just going to look at the definition of that by AI. It's derived from the Greek words nekros, corpse, and mantia, divination, referring to the practice of conjuring or communicating with the spirits of the dead. What do you say to that?
Well, we tried contacting them when we were in a mine once. That's the only time I've ever done something like that. Yeah. Don't know. I can't see it showing you gone.
What about the lights and the orbs? I mean, isn't that some kind of
That's got to be something, isn't it? You know, what I sent
transmission?
you. What do you think? What I sent you is bizarre, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Never seen anything like it.
That bounced off the floor, and the one that goes around in a curve. What? Yes. I had some very, very spooky experiences. I was raking out the remains once. The rake is over 8 foot long, 10 foot long, 12 foot long. And as I was shooting it forwards over the roller, it just stopped dead. but it felt like somebody grabbed it from behind, but there was nobody there. And then grabbed it really quick, let it go, and the goosebumps went straight through me, you know. Maybe there's something out there. Who knows?
I can imagine.
When I lost my brother Sean 26 years ago, next week, 2 weeks' time, I'm convinced I seen him a week after he died, and I'm walking down a path and I went running after him. He was having a moment, but he wasn't there. But I'm convinced I seen him. So, you know, I don't know.
Pamela wants to know if the smell of death is worse than the smell a skunk emits.
I don't know what that smells like, but I'd say yes. It's the worst smell ever. Yeah. You'll never forget.
Is there a black market for embalming fluid?
No idea.
Right. Our next show is about to start. I'm going to put your YouTube link. Please subscribe to Al on YouTube. If you think this is fascinating, the crematorium stuff, he goes underground in hidden tunnels and mines, and they find all kinds of things, hundreds of years old down there.
Mm-hmm.
And his videos. Tell the viewers what kind of what they can look forward to on your channel.
So we research, document old mines going way back to the Bronze Age, up to modern times. We have an ROV, which is a radio-controlled submarine. We send that into flooded levels. What we find is amazing. So the only way to find out is watch the videos. And if anybody wants to contact me about crematorium stuff or anything, or mines, get me on Facebook, Lost Mines, Instagram, Lost Mines, and YouTube, Lost Mines.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. I will be back with Ryan Dawson tomorrow at 1 p.m. UK, possibly Lionel at 9 p.m. UK, and then Monday, Gerald Salente is coming on at 9 p.m. UK. So we've got some blockbuster guests. So if you I think Ron's going live now. If you want to stay tuned for that, this should take you over to it. More of this, please. Yep, I agree. More of Al. We all want more of Al. And bear in mind, with Al, you know, being the Grim Reaper and being around death his whole life, and inviting me to go into a mine with him, underground, high-risk activity. Put a 1 in the chat if you think I should risk my life and do this and film it. Put a 2 in the chat if you think I've already used up my 9 lives and I should say stay safe at home with Jen and baby Ziggy and not risk my life going underground with Al the Grim Reaper. Let's see what they're saying. Got a few ones. Of course, they want me to risk my life.
Mines. There it is.
To create some content. Ones. One person says no. Oh, thanks, Wendy. Wendy cares. Wendy and Georgie care about whether I live or die. Carpe diem. Sharon, I don't know what to do. Oh, even my own partner. Go, please. She'll be getting life insurance on me the day before, Al. Knowing Jen. You're not a kitty. Jen said go. Take a canary in a golden cage. As if you've never risked your life, Sean. Look, I'm just having a mellow life now. I don't do anything too crazy anymore. Ask Jen for her vote. It's Jen's vote is unanimously. Number 2, look after yourself, says Katie. Thank you, Katie. Another one who actually cares for me more than my own partner. Boo-hoo. Remember Descent? Oh, my God.
I did. That's a hell of a film.
Yes, I'm not going to watch that the night before. All right, well, thank you, my friend. Get in the cave. Stay tuned. We've got Ron, Beverly, remote viewing, surviving life. We still love you, Sean. Well, you're going to be coming to my crematorium service, Lisa. Do you love me that much? You're going to travel to come and watch Al shove me in the oven. All right. Good night. Good night, everyone. We've had fun.